My name is Kristen. I live with my husband, Morris, and our daughter, Noelle. Noelle is 10 years old, and she's grown into a lively and kind-hearted girl. From the outside, our family probably looks like a happy one. But the truth is, the relationship between Morris and me had fallen apart a long time ago. I met Morris at work. When we were dating, Morris was a very kind person, slender, handsome, and charming. He cared for me so much that when he proposed, I was overjoyed to the point of tears. I thought we could live happily ever after as a married couple. I realized I was wrong a few months after our wedding. I discovered that Morris was nothing but a lazy person who only looked good on the outside. He never did any housework, and he just lazed around on his days off. Because of this lifestyle, he quickly lost his good looks and became as big as a bear. Whenever I asked him to help with the housework, he would yell, "It's your job. You're a stay-at-home wife." I became too scared to say anything. Becoming a stay-at-home wife was something Morris asked me to do when we got married. He told me, "It's been my dream to have my wife welcome me home," and I couldn't refuse him. So I quit my job, but I regretted it soon after our marriage. He would say, "You're a stay-at-home wife, so it's natural for you to do all this." And he would force all the housework on me. He also told me not to go out on my own, saying, "Stay-at-home wives might cheat." And I felt trapped in the house. A few months into our marriage, I wanted to leave Morris. But then I found out I was pregnant. Morris was truly happy about the child. I struggled with whether or not to divorce Morris, but I chose to continue our marriage, hoping that having a child might change him. I realized that choice was a mistake as soon as Noelle was born. Morris seemed to love Noelle, but he left all the child care to me. Moreover, he started coming home late on weekdays and started going out without a word on weekends. I suspected he was cheating, and it didn't take long to find out it was true. Morris was having an affair, but didn't even bother to hide his mobile phone. I often saw texts from someone named Donna. Perhaps Morris wanted to flaunt his affair to me. When I asked, "Who's Donna?" Morris smirked and said, "You're better off not knowing. Divorcing now would be hard on Noelle. And besides, Kristen, you have no way to make money." I knew Morris was cheating, but I couldn't pursue it any further. Exhausted from daily housework and childcare, I began to feel worthless. I felt so worthless that I even thought it was natural for Morris to cheat on me. I was very depressed at that time. I also hesitated to take Noelle's father away from her, as Morris said, and above all, I had no qualifications or skills. I was hired by the company I worked for before marriage thanks to being a fresh graduate, but I felt that finding a new job after not working for a while would be difficult. When Noelle got a little older, I asked Morris if I could work part-time. I wanted to divorce Morris, and I wanted to gain the ability to earn money on my own. But Morris was furious at this suggestion. "You're planning to cheat on me if you go out. I won't let Kristen go out at all. And it would be pitiful to Noelle if you work without taking care of her," he yelled, rejecting my request. My parents had passed away early, and being an only child, I had no one to turn to. I didn't have the courage to make the decision to divorce Morris in an environment where I wasn't even allowed to go out freely. So, I started doing something without Morris finding out. Then one day, I received news that my father-in-law had collapsed and was hospitalized. Father-in-law had been living alone since my mother-in-law passed away. Morris allowed me to visit father-in-law, so I went to see him almost every day. I won't deny that I wanted to go out, but I genuinely cared for father-in-law. Father-in-law was a very gentle person, like a sage. Even after we were married, he always looked out for me, saying, "Morris can be selfish, so it must be hard for you, Kristen." Father-in-law always welcomed me and Noel with joy when we visited him. Imagining parting with father-in-law, who was getting weaker every day, I would tear up. And father-in-law would always smile and say, "It's okay. I'm just going to where my wife is waiting." When Noel was little, father-in-law often came to visit me when I was feeling overwhelmed. He took good care of Noel and even told me, "If life with Morris is hard, you should divorce him any time." When father-in-law's condition became critical, Morris brought someone home. Who is this?" In the middle of a weekday, while Noel was still at school, Morris brought home a young woman. Morris introduced her with pride.
"This is Donna, my mistress."
I was dumbfounded, wondering why he would bring his mistress home when he knew I was there. Donna smiled and said, "Nice to meet you." I was irritated, but I asked Morris, "What's going on?" And he casually replied,
"I'm thinking of divorcing you, so I thought Kristen might want to know what my mistress looks like. I don't feel attracted to you anymore, so take Noel and leave. I'm going to marry Donna."
Why all of a sudden? I already knew that Morris didn't see me as a woman. I couldn't understand why he decided to divorce me at this timing. Morris grinned like a devil.
"Because my father is going to die soon. If I don't divorce you now, I'll have to share the inheritance with you when I do."
Father-in-law was a landowner and had worked for a large corporation until he retired, so he had considerable wealth. I understood why Morris would want a large inheritance, but I never thought he would push for a divorce just because he didn't want to share it with me. Morris never visited father-in-law in the hospital. He always said,
"I wish my father would die soon and give me the money."
I was always angry at these words because I cared for father-in-law. But when Morris said he wanted to divorce me to keep all the inheritance, my pent-up anger exploded. "Fine, let's divorce. Noel and I will leave tonight. You and Donna be happy," I said with a smile and quickly began to pack. Morris was stunned. Finally, he asked anxiously,
"Are you really okay with divorcing?"
"I'm just doing what Morris said," I replied with a smile and filled out the divorce papers Morris had prepared.
"Hey, Kristen, how can you divorce so easily? You don't have any qualifications and you can't work."
Morris was clearly flustered by my calm demeanor. He must have thought I would cry and beg him. Looking at the confused Morris, I laughed and said, "I'm earning enough. I've been writing essay comics. I've been published and received a lot of royalties." Morris said,
"What?"
looking puzzled. So I handed him and Donna one of my essay comics. The comic detailed all the various things my husband had done. The something I had started doing without Morris finding out was uploading these comics to social media. I had always loved drawing and thought I could make a living with my illustration skills. Reading the essay comic, Morris began to tremble and shouted,
"What is this? You're the worst for drawing me without permission."
"I think I'm better than someone who wants to divorce to monopolize their parents' inheritance," I replied firmly. Morris opened his mouth to say something else, but Donna spoke first. Is this true?" Reading the essay comic, Donna's face turned pale. I smiled broadly and nodded. Yes, Morris is the kind of person who locks his wife in the house and doesn't let her out. He barely gives enough for living expenses, and he tells me to pay for our child's hospital bills from that. When I run out and ask for more, he yells at me for wasting money. As I explained the page Donna was reading, confirming that the essay comic was true, Donna said, "Wait, let me think about the marriage," and left the house. Morris tripped and fell as he stood up, shouting,
"Donna, wait for me!"
He hit his head and groaned in pain. His reaction was so funny that I couldn't help but laugh. Morris turned bright red and yelled,
"It's all your fault!"
before running after Donna. In his haste, he left the divorce papers behind, so I decided to submit them myself. I explained the situation to Noelle when she came home, and we left. Noelle understood that we were divorcing and that she wouldn't see Morris anymore, but she was more worried about not seeing father-in-law.
"Can't we visit Grandpa anymore?"
"I think it's fine to visit Grandpa as usual since your father probably won't go there," I answered, and Noelle looked genuinely happy. After submitting the divorce papers at the courthouse, Noelle and I, having nowhere else to go, visited father-in-law. We asked if we could live with him until we found a place to rent, and father-in-law immediately agreed. He apologized for Morris's behavior, saying, "My son has done something truly inexcusable." Within a month, father-in-law passed away. Noelle and I were grieving, but Morris's constant anger towards me was a real nuisance. Apparently, Donna had left him because of the essay comic, and he was angry, saying,
"It's your fault."
But he also bragged,
"Now all of my father's inheritance is mine."
I was disgusted with myself for ever marrying such a person. A few days after father-in-law's death, Morris called me at lunchtime.
"Hey, you must have deceived my father."
I had no idea what he was talking about and asked, "What do you mean?"
"My father gave away all his inheritance, and he left a will saying that the only thing he kept, the house, goes to Kristen."
I was shocked by father-in-law's will, and Morris yelled,
"Come here now!"
When I rushed to the house, I found Morris and a lawyer in the messy home, left untidy since there was no one to clean. The will shown to me by the lawyer indeed stated that the house was left to me, and father-in-law had left me a letter. "Kristen, I'm truly sorry for the trouble Morris has caused. I've donated all the inheritance, but I want to leave the house to you. Please accept it as my small way of making amends for raising a child like Morris. Thank you for everything." Morris had read the letter and even accused me.
"Were you having an affair with my father?"
"I won't stand for this nonsense," I exclaimed through tears. "Father-in-law has been worried about you all this time, and yet you never visited him once, only wanting his inheritance. You're a despicable person." Perhaps surprised by my tearful outburst, Morris stood dumbfounded beside me, while the lawyer explained the procedure for receiving the inheritance. Morris muttered,
"But it's my house."
but the lawyer told him, "Legally, this house belongs to Kristen," and he was left speechless. Noelle and I had planned to find a rental and move, but we decided to live in the house that father-in-law had left us. Life with Noelle was peaceful, and she seemed happy. I had endured the marriage for Noelle's sake, but I regretted not divorcing sooner. As for Morris, he was later arrested. He had broken up with Donna, but then became a stalker. He followed Donna, begging her to marry him, and he even broke into her house. This led to legal trouble, and he was forced to resign from his job. Morris lost his job and Donna due to a restraining order. He managed to rent a small apartment room after selling the house we had lived in, but he struggled to find work. The reason I knew this was because Morris had broken into the house I had inherited. Living a poor life in his apartment, Morris broke a window to enter crying.
"Help me, Kristen!"
I immediately turned him over to the police. It seems that Morris, who is on probation, will now face actual imprisonment. I hope he can correct his twisted personality while paying for his crimes. As for me, I turned this divorce drama with my husband into a comic, and it's going to be published again. Sales are good, and it's already going into a second printing. I've started receiving requests from clients who want me to do illustrations and comics. Thinking that I was able to acquire a skill to support Noelle without Morris knowing makes me proud of myself back then.